Well, hello everyone. Welcome to Real Grown Woman Talk. We are having a conversation that I am so excited about with one of my favorite people in the world. I call her Miss Wilson. I want because I always say Satoria and it's Satoria, so that I don't mess it up during this time. We'll just say Miss Wilson of Victress Ladies.
Hi,
Welcome.
thank you.
Are you
Thank you for
excited, ready
having
for
me.
the conversation?
Yes, I am excited.
Yes. We're just talking about freedom. For a real grown woman talk, it's all about just having conversations with amazing women doing amazing things. And
Mhm.
we're just taking the next best steps on our journey to success. And with that journey comes an expression of freedom, a
Right.
fulfillment of purpose. And nobody better translate that than Miss Wilson to me. We met during OGU, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, during OGU. And won't you just tell them about our genesis, kind of how we began,
So
what
yeah,
you
we
remember
met
about
during OGU. I was in a spot in my life when I joined OGU, and I blessed. It was such a blessing for me meeting you because you understood me, and things that I thought that I had handled mentally, I didn't, and you were able to uh, give me advice. I was able to listen, and even when I was like, "No," and then I had to think about things, be like, "No, she right." It was like even when it came to what I wanted to do, you opened my eyes to a lot of stuff.
Yeah,
So
thank you. Yeah, and it's important that you are teachable and coachable, and she was, and she is. And I remember our conversation. She had this vision for Victress Ladies, and we were talking about it, and it just ended up just, I don't know, it was just like a God thing. It ended up just
mhm,
talking about a whole lot of different things that
yeah,
really, when you are wanting to transition into living a life of freedom and allowing the things that have happened in your life to make you better and not bitter, you have to
mhm,
be able to be coachable and teachable to go on the journey, because it's ultimately your life and your decision. But you were willing to say, okay, I'm ready to change for real, like whatever it
right,
takes. And that's what I loved about your sincerity to begin to live as a victorious lady. And
right,
I remember us talking about your program that you wanted for girls, and we were talking about a bunch of other things. And I was
yeah,
like, I'm just not hearing the passion in it.
yeah,
I'm not hearing that. And you were like, no, this is really what I want to do, and all that. I was like, okay, but I'm just not hearing it. I'm not.
yep,
And do you remember that?
yep,
And then
yep,
we had a couple of more sessions, and I remember one time in particular we were talking about relationships, right? You
yes,
remember when,
mhm,
and you remember because you was like, I always remember that. You remember what I shared with you about that?
yeah. I remember you. I remember talking about it, and I remember saying, I noticed the red flags, and I remember you was like, "Well, you should be tired of catching red flags. Catch some green ones." I was looking like it was funny, it was real, but I was looking like, really?
But we have to have those moments in our lives where
Yes,
somebody just gives us that gut check, like seriously, especially when it's done in love, which it was. But
yes,
sometimes we have these rose colored glasses on and we have the I know, but it's like, I mean, how and it all boils down at the end of the day to understanding your worth and your freedom.
right,
And when you got that, you got that.
right,
And we talked about, we just talked about all the different ways to experience freedom. We went from relationships with, romantic relationships to relationships with our moms and our children.
mhm.
And you were very transparent in that. But before we can get to that, let's just get a little bit of genesis of your story. Like what were your teenage years like?
So, I was in a household with both parents up until I was maybe 12 years old when my mom decided, she couldn't take it no more, being with my dad. Our household was very dysfunctional. My parents didn't seem happy with each other. My dad would physically and emotionally abuse my mom. mentally, and my mom would, say things back to him, and sometimes she would take it out, on the kids. She was going through a whole lot of stress, so that was hard. And then by the time I hit the age 14, I was like 14 and a half when I found out I was pregnant. I had my child at 15. It was my freshman year in high school. And so that was really hard because that was my most loneliest,
Mm-hmm.
time. I didn't feel like I had people, being that I got pregnant so young. A lot of the friends that I had, parents didn't want them to hang around me. And I wasn't even a bad child. Like, I was quiet. I didn't get into trouble. I never had a fight in school ever. So it was like, I just saw somebody that told me I was pretty, and he kind of like, got into our family. He was much older, so he kind of preyed on me at a very young age. So it was really hard, even having to tell, my close friends, who the father was. It was very, emotional, and I lost a lot of friends. So yeah, it was very hard growing up.
And that is so important that I hope individuals get what you said about how, as parents, we have to be so careful
Hmm.
how we present our relationships in front of our children.
Hmm.
I grew up in a time when parents argued, but they kind of did it when the kids weren't around. Even if you knew that they were arguing, they did their best to protect you. And I'm sure your mom did the same, but you get to this
Yeah.
point where you're just so frustrated that you can't hide it
Hmm.
anymore. But we
Right.
have to find a way that between those years and the time you hit 14, that we find some ways to assist our young people.
Right.
Where we know in OGU, we talk about the 3I, where we find ways to invade into the lives of those young people, even as parents. If you know that you are living in a relation or having a relationship that's dysfunctional, you know that your children
Hmm.
deserve better. Even
Yeah.
if you're too afraid to give it to them yourself, you owe it to them
Yeah.
to reach out into the community and find mentors and programs that will give your child an outlet so she doesn't end up feeling alone. Because that in 2020, that's a dangerous place for our young people to
It
be
is. It is.
alone, because
Hmm.
they look for love any and everywhere, and they do almost anything to get it. Or when they can't find it, they become angry, they become violent.
Right.
And I'm so proud of you for your journey. I'm proud of you for realizing and being able to share your story right now, because I
Yeah.
know that it's going to bless others. So you're 14, you're pregnant, you graduated high school, and you navigated to did you stay in this relationship with the father? What happened with the older gentleman?
No, actually, and let me just, remind you, I didn't even get a chance to graduate.
Mhm.
Like, as soon as I turned 16, it was like I have to work, to take care of my child. So no, I did not stay in the relationship with the father. He actually went to prison. It was so secretive on who the father was that I knew if I told who the father was, I was just looking at the fact of what my parents was gonna think of me. Were they gonna blame it on me? Were they gonna blame themselves? Because he was a friend of the family. So I kept it hidden all the way till I was like 17. And not only that, my dad was really the reason why, because he would say things like, if it's somebody older, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. And the last thing I wanted was, even though my dad had his ways, I didn't want him to be in prison for hurting somebody. So I he scared me to not even telling anyone who the father was. So once I turned like 17 years old, pretty much everybody started noticing, because my daughter Oz, her eyes are hazel. So she started to you look more and more like him. And then I finally said, but he was in prison by the time he did, about 13, 14 years. He actually recently just got out about 3 years ago. So she just met her dad for the first time 3 years ago.
So during that time, what was your relationship like with your parents when you are during this cycle of secrecy, and then again you feeling lonely, and just a dysfunction, and you yourself being a child dealing with some very adult,
Yeah.
traumatic adult situations.
Yeah, it was hard. Like my parents, they blamed each other. You know, my mom was blaming my dad was blaming my mom. She got pregnant on your watch. So I was always in the middle. And both of my parents, one was in this ear, one was in the other. You know, it was really hurtful. You know, they never really paid attention at the fact that I was under depression and I actually had postpartum depression, you know, but they didn't never pay attention to me. They paid attention to themselves, you know, and who fault it was. So it was really hard. Like I didn't even know I had postpartum depression for the first year. You know, it took me to start going through, like you said, angry, then anger turned into me, you know, fighting, you know, an apartment complex. It turned into like stuff like that. My mom at that time, she was in her, they were in separate places. My dad was scared, you know, to be around me while I was pregnant because my dad was abusive. But I really think he wanted me to go stay with my mom because he knew, you know, if she's here, I might end up, you know, hitting her. Or, and it was a couple of times where he did. So I ended up going to stay with my mom. But, you know, even though I know she loved me and she was, you know, she had accepted the fact that I was pregnant, you know, as soon as they told her, she didn't take it, you know, hard. But, you know, the mental abuse, you know, the names that I got called, you know, started. And, you know, my dad, he was like the first one to call me out of my name. So I was hearing these same cussing and name calling, you know, from childhood up until, you know, adulthood. But yeah, it was still hard. Like I developed, you know, depression and, you know, things like that.
So you mentioned the fighting and stuff. How was that your outlet? Was that how you let all of this anger and trauma? Is that was that your, I mean, of course you were young, but was that your way of dealing with it?
I believe that it was. The fighting that I was doing was really amongst family members. Like my whole family was very dysfunctional. So it was between siblings. And I think that my mom and dad did not know that when they were fighting and they was trying to say, you know, things like your mom don't love you because of this or your dad don't love you. Really, it was causing confusion with the siblings because if we seen someone getting done better, then we will get mad and we will fight. And it wasn't like little fights, it was big fights, like the police have to get called.
Mm.
So yeah,
How long would that go on in the household?
it went on like a lot. Like I think that when we were all living together, we didn't fight, but when they separated, it was like it opened up something like they can express themselves more anger without us being in the same household. So it got worse. The separation, you know, it got really worse
So
because
now, I'm
mhm,
sorry. Go ahead. I'm
mainly
sorry. Go ahead.
because, you know, my mom, she took, you know, one of the siblings with her but left the other siblings. So that's how the siblings began to fight back and forth. No one felt love. You know, it was either, you know, you took her because you loved her and you didn't love us. So it that yeah.
So now you've had your baby. Was it your daughter?
Yes.
So where are you now in this space? How old are you now with her? You're 14,
So
15?
so so are you asking me like how are we like as
No,
in.
what age were you when you gave birth to her? Like you got this life that you got to take care of now.
So I gave birth to her at 15.
Okay. And
At
so
15
from
years old.
15, you're still in the home with your mom, or
Uh-huh.
was there a time when you left and on your own?
Yeah, I was in the home with my mom. Things were rocky there, you know, so it was times where she would, you know, put me out and I would like meet new people like that were also on the streets. You know, I was hanging around with much older people. I started learning how to, you know, sell drugs, you know, and things like that. And so it went from my mom like putting me out all the time to sometimes I'd encourage she put me out because it was like, you know, I'm just gonna go out and hustle.
Okay. Now we know
So
there's always two sides to every story, and
mhm.
so your mom, was she putting you out because you were just this great child she didn't want in the house, or were you rebellious? Were you
Yeah,
reacting out of all that was happening? Was it just a combination of just
it was
all
a
of that?
combination. I did become rebellious, you know. My mom, she like I said, she's a great, you know, mother. She's a great, you know, grandparent. I think that me and her clashed the most because of my dad, you know, and I will yell at her, she'll yell at me. So I think she couldn't handle that. So she would just be like, just go, you know. And so it was more like that. Like I wasn't innocent. I wasn't a saint.
Yeah, and so when you went, now you know they always say nothing good out there in them streets. Were you
No,
able to find something good in those streets?
no, I did not. I actually started running into trouble after trouble after trouble.
And so
So
you arrive at this point where we all arrive at this rock bottom where we say, you know what, I have got to make some changes. When
yeah.
did that happen for you?
So it actually started to happen. I met a guy by the name of Corleone. That's actually his CEO name. His name is Keith Piper. But I met him the day of my dad's funeral. And I actually started expressing to him that I knew how to, you know, rap. I was a writer too.
Mm-hmm.
So he actually gave me a chance at a time where I didn't even love myself. I was beating myself up over my dad's death because I felt like it was more I could have said or done before he passed away. So this guy gave me a chance in the music, you know, industry, and we were underground, but just being able to not fight and not, you know, be clashing with people, I was able to put all of that into music.
Oh, girl, you can flow? All right.
Yeah.
All right now, girl. You didn't tell me you could flow. And so what happened with that? Was that the outlet that you was like, oh, that breath of fresh air that you
Yeah,
needed?
it was. It was a breath of fresh air. You know, I was able to express myself. Like whether it was anger, happiness, I was able to put it down on paper and actually, you know, tell a story. You know, and he also gave me that feeling of, you know, a father that I never had. You know, he was very funny. So I was really happy, you know, to meet somebody like him. But at one point, I was like, you know what? I'm doing all this rapping and nothing as good is coming out of my mouth.
Mm.
I want to do something different.
Okay. Okay.
You
And
know.
where did that lead you? What was it something different?
So I met someone named Laura who actually is a member of K War.
Hmm.
And she actually was my manager. And when I began to talk to her about God a lot, she actually I was going through, I had just got out of a domestic violence situation myself. So she offered me to come to the church. And the day I walked in, I don't know what happened, but it was like I all of a sudden just got on a whole different path.
Yes, that is our Bishop Omar Jawa.
Bishop
Yes,
Omar.
yes, yes, yes. I mean, he has changed so many of our lives, and he's
Yes.
truly a giant in the ministry. And you're right. And what I love most about him is that he just meets you where you are. Like he
Yes.
told, at K War Legacy, we're all about the kingdom and representing the kingdom here on earth. And so yeah, I know that that resonates. So now that you're at K War, what's happening now with you?
So when I wasn't raised in a church.
Hmm.
But I do know God, like I do know, you know, right from wrong, you know. But when I got into that church and I started, even with Bishop Omar's story, I was like, if I did all of this and he said he did all of that and God still loves him, then
Yes,
God gotta still love me.
yes,
And I
yes,
know that I can no longer carry the hurt that I've been through, but just maybe I can use it to help people.
yes,
And
yes,
that was what I started to learn from him, you, Pastor Anita, and Pastor Barbara. Like I just started learning ways to cope with what I've been through.
yes, yes. I remember when you came into the office and we were talking about your mom, and you were
Uh,
like, "Oh, I don't know about that one." I was like, "I'm gonna let you tell the story," but
yes, I was like, I came in and I really came in to talk about Victress ladies, but it turned into a whole different thing. But one thing I can say about you, Leslie, is that you showed me sympathy, but you also was like, okay, so let me tell you what you doing wrong. It was, it was like that. And I needed that because I've always wanted that. Like, tell me the truth. Don't side with me. Tell me the truth. And I remember crying hard. I was like, nobody loves me. And then all of a sudden you tell me your situation. And I remember my tears going zoop. Like,
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
doing all of this, but there's people out there going through worse.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And I loved how we even embraced the conversation about forgiveness because
Yeah.
the journey to freedom, there is a stop called forgiveness that you cannot really you can't take a detour on that. So many people stay stuck there. They don't even realize that
Yeah.
this is a stumbling block. And it's like you got to be willing to get over that. And we had a conversation about your mom and
Hmm.
the pain and just everything that you shared. And I remember sharing some things with you so that you could kind of see it through a different lens.
Yeah.
And you were open to that. And I'll never forget, I was on 360 coming home from work and I got the phone call from you and you were like, oh my God, I have to tell you that me and my mom had a talk today. Tell us about
Yes.
the story. Girl, you just don't know how that blessed me. That
It
blessed me.
was very emotional. Like, she came over. I wasn't even planning on having that conversation, but she came over and we were just talking. And then I just went, you know what, Mama? I don't think that I was a good daughter, too.
Mm,
And I was like, I'm just asking you to forgive me for things that I've said, things that I've done. And she started crying and she just started saying, forgive me too. I was on a lot of medication. They had me on heart medicine, this and this. And it was things that I would say, plus your dad, he was stressing me. I didn't know how to handle, certain things. So the only way, she just started telling me. And it was like a big brick just was taken off of me because I had waited for so long for that. And
yeah,
sometimes people want to tell you stuff, but they don't know how to open it up to you. And
yeah.
I think that was what was happening with my mom. It took me to bring up
Yes.
forgiveness
Yeah.
and for her to come in and say, I've been waiting for you to come to me about, because she didn't know if it would affect me by bringing certain things up. So she just
Right.
did it. She didn't know how.
Yeah.
So we are getting closer every day. My mom is so funny.
Yeah.
I used to always be like, I don't have nothing that remind me of my mom in me.
Mhm.
But now that I talk to her and we actually talk like best friends, we are so much alike in so many ways.
Yes, I love it. I love it because I remember in our conversation sharing with you that many at our age, a lot of our parents were old school. And so
Yeah,
there wasn't a lot of apologies and sharing. It
yeah.
was like they just did the best they could with what they had. And I remember saying, Satoria, you are the light.
Hmm.
And
Oh,
if you want, and as a parent, because we can resonate with this because we are parents. As a parent, we are not going to show you all the nights that we've cried on our pillowcase. We
hmm.
can look strong, but when it comes to our children and our babies, when we know we've let them down, when we know they deserve better and we weren't able to do that, I'm like, trust me, it impacts her, whether she ever tells you or not. And I challenge you to take that step to say, you know what, just have that conversation because
Yeah,
it wasn't all one sided. As a daughter, you remember I asked you, I said, do you think she may have been disappointed in you as a daughter?
right. I remember that.
And when we begin to see it that way, it kind of like, okay, you know what? Let me be willing because as parents and as people in any relationship, you have two choices. You can either want to be right or you can want to be in the relationship. So when
Right,
you want to be right, you're always pointing out what somebody else is doing, what somebody else owes you. My father always taught us people, honey, nobody owes you anything.
right. Hmm.
But when you want the relationship, you forgive. And we
Hmm.
talk about, okay, well, legacy about redemption. That's
Right.
great. That we believe in that. And so when you make that call, when you call me, I was so, I cannot tell you. I came home and I wept and I was so excited for y'all. And then I had the pleasure of meeting your mom. And
Mhm.
I'm just like, oh my God, this is what it is about. Like
Yeah.
this is that journey to freedom. And I was more happy for you just taking that step because I knew what it was going to do for you in the spiritual realm
Yeah.
because you had just defeated the enemy on his turf with the love
Mhm.
of God. And see, when you do that, honey, it was a beautiful thing. And so I have just enjoyed your growth, and even as a mother now, with the things that you've learned in your journey, how has that impacted your relationship with your children?
One thing is that I let them be open to coming to tell me if I hurt them in some way, if
Mhm.
I said something that they didn't agree to. I let them be open to that. Talk to me about anything because I want to know how you feel. So if I see that there's a depression pattern or a behavior pattern, I can reach out to people and mentors to make sure that you get help. So that's the main thing I learned is not to scare my kids into not wanting to come talk to me.
Oh, that's beautiful. Oh, girl, that is so powerful. And I hope if nobody else get any other parent listening, if you don't get anything else from that, get that because I too have two daughters and I was raised old school, and it took me. We always say the firstborn is like the test dummy, not physically, but you know what I mean. It's like
Yeah,
we just
yeah.
learning this thing, and so I was really hard on my oldest daughter,
Hmm.
and all of us have different personalities, and so it impacted her.
Yeah,
And then my youngest daughter, it was kind of like I was harder on her because I was determined that you are going to get this right. We're going to get this right one way or the
right,
other. And so I taught them how to speak up and stuff. But then when they start using it on you, you be like, now, wait a minute now.
right.
Change the tone, lower your voice. I'm still mama, but it is so. I was just determined to let them have an opportunity to share and express in a respectful way because
Right.
I didn't have that growing up. And so, like, I didn't take the path of many people, but I was angry. A lot of people didn't know it, but then some people did because it showed up in my attitude. And,
Yeah.
I always say I didn't go pick any fights, but if you brought one to me, I would definitely step into it. I didn't have a
Yeah.
problem fighting. But when we become parents, when we know better, we do better. And
Right.
I love that. And one of your babies, when I saw him, he's in a movie and he's in
Yes.
this movie. I was like, look at him, go ahead, go
Yes.
ahead. And
Yes.
that's the beautiful thing that
Mhm.
as parents, when we go through that spiritual transformation, and we can either repeat the cycle or we can break the cycle. And what I love about
Right.
you is that you chose to break the cycle.
And I chose to break it.
You are so committed to that. And I love that. And out of that, because I really don't think you would have been able to birth the things that you're birthing now had you
Right.
still hung on to that anger and that
Yes.
unforgiveness.
Hmm.
So tell us what was it like when you just finally stepped into, or when it was really when you were free enough to say, you know what, I can do this. I can start this business. I can follow my dream. What was that like for you?
I mean, it was like really amazing. Like I said, the OGU program definitely played a big part in that.
Yes.
It made me feel like I can do this. I can actually start a business. I can actually start from scratch with nothing and just use what I've been through to help other people.
Yes, yes,
And
yes, yes.
and that was like the best thing for me. I'm telling you that OGU was the program that changed my life.
Yes, yes. You want to learn more about that? OGU movement.com org. Try them both. See, I just had a brain for you. OGU movement.org. I think it's .org, but go there. OGUmovement.org. Okay, I'm sorry. Because it really is. It is the work of helping individuals in this culture of senseless violence.
Yeah.
And it is also a lifestyle. So it's not just a movement, it is a lifestyle. And when you embrace the lifestyle, you are a true example of what happens. It's not only that you change others, you yourself change first. And
Yes.
out of that, is that when you birth Victress Ladies?
That is when I birthed Victress Ladies, being in that program and being around people like you, it showed me like when I met you, I was like, I want to be like her. I would not grow up, you know. It was like that, like the way you mentor, the way you talk to people, it was amazing. Like you definitely was part of my change.
Oh, I'm honored. I'm honored. It was a privilege, and it is a privilege. It is a privilege. So tell us exactly what is Victress Ladies?
So Victress Ladies is actually a women's support group. We hang out like once a month because of the coronavirus. We really haven't been able to do the normal things we were doing, but we still meet up on Zoom. We talk about like everyday thing. Some of us, the kids, be getting on our nerves. We
Mm.
gotta let it out. We gotta talk about it.
Yes.
There's a couple of women who, like myself, went through domestic violence, or some that are still going through it, trying to figure out how to get out of it. So we just, we talk all the time. We pray together. So it's just a support group, and once this coronavirus thing is over, or, eased up some, we'll start back going out, to our hangout spots and, having fun. But that's what it is. It's a women's support group.
That is beautiful. Now, when you created this support group, did you feel like you were not qualified, or did you feel like this is my calling?
I felt like this was my calling. Um, for one, ever since I can imagine, people always come to me, and every time they come to me, they talk to me. They share personal things with me. They always ask me for advice. I was giving people advice when I couldn't even give myself advice. You know, and that's kind of crazy, but people, I was giving people advice, and so friends start telling me like, you should, talk to my friend. She's going through this. She's going through that. Can you talk to her and tell her what you've been through? And I was like, you know what? I think I want to do a support group.
Awesome. Awesome. Yes, that is so beautiful because God will give you beauty for ashes.
Hmm.
And you were able to take the things that were meant to destroy you, and you were
Right,
able to leverage that to bring other women out. And that's really
right,
what our life as a believer. We believe in that at K War Legacy. That's really what it's all about. It's about sharing the gospel, but not in a way that's religious, but just the
right,
kingdom. It is a
right,
way of helping meeting people where they are and letting them know you are not alone. Bishop
right,
always tells us, if I can come out, then you know that you can come out. We all can come out.
right,
So when you show
right.
up, you are letting these women know that you not only can you come out, but you can come out free. See, the
Yeah,
way you can come out. You can come out angry and bitter, but you are on a journey and you're like, I'm determined to come out free. And I just so honor and salute you for that. I know your children are so proud of you.
they
So
are.
your
They are.
daughter, your daughter has been on the journey with you the longest. How has
Yeah.
she, I know she's loving this transformation that she's seeing
Yeah,
literally before our eyes.
she is very funny. She cracks jokes all the time. She usually say, "I was Miss Cleo. Now I'm the new, the new Queen Latifah." Now,
All right,
uh,
yes.
she's so funny. I'm just proud of her. We went through our ups and downs. I had to realize that it was certain things that was happening in my household that was affecting her and affecting our relationship. And once I realized that, I was able to connect more with her, and through it all, my main thing was her not to get pregnant at a young age. And, she didn't. She went off to college. She's in college to be a teacher. So I'm like, I'm happy. My
Yes.
other two, they're the same thing, AB honor roll students.
They are amazing. You have amazing kids. You've done an excellent job for someone who could have easily allowed the story to navigate them down a dark path. The way that you have stepped into the light, stepped into your personal power. That's what our children need to see more of, because we all have a choice every day. We can allow the circumstances and live in unforgiveness and live in that dark place and blame everybody else, or we can take
Right,
100% responsibility for our life and say, you know what, I choose to do better, not just for me, but for them, because they didn't ask to be here. Our
right.
children, they didn't ask to be here. And I just salute you for that. So you share with us about Victress Ladies. What else are you doing?
So I'm actually back doing hair. I just started a boutique. I opened a boutique called Me Soxy Bossy Boutique. You know, I sell hair, I sell lashes, clothing. I'm still getting clothing in. I'm looking forward to launching everything the beginning of the year. I also just came out with my own hair products, um, oils.
Look at God. Oh my goodness.
And
Yes, that's what I'm
so
talking about.
So I'm just, packaging my purpose. I learned
That's
that from
it.
you.
Yes.
And I'm ready to I'm ready for this new path. Like it's so many things that's happening. Blessings are just coming. And I know it's because of me just fully surrendering and
Yes.
changing my life.
Yes, because people don't understand. They can numb the pain and stuff with these vices, sex, men,
Yeah.
women, clubs, all of it. But at the end of the day, when it's just you know you're not happy. You
You know
know you're
you're not
better
happy.
than that.
Mhm.
And it's just a matter of, you said the key word is just surrendering. It's like
Yeah.
it's not even on you to try to figure out the how. You just
Right.
focus on what it is you really want, the why. And that should be peace of mind.
Yeah.
A relationship, a healthy relationship for my children, a healthy relationship with the person that God has for me. And it's like we feel like we're going to give up something on this walk, but you gain so much.
Hmm.
It's like you wake up and you like, okay, today may not be perfect. I may have some ups and downs, but I'm living in and on purpose.
Right.
I'm doing the things that I've been called to do. I mean, you have a support group. You have your hairline. You are doing hair, which she's amazing at, right? She's
Yes.
bad with that. And now you have hair products. Did you see a year from now? I mean, a year ago, did you see this? Did
No,
you?
I didn't. People think that I started this years ago because of the growth and the
Yes.
timing. And I'm
Yes.
like, no, this all started this year. Is
In
you
the
know,
middle of a pandemic,
in the
God is
middle of a
still moving.
pandemic. Yes.
What? That's what I'm saying. In the middle of a pandemic, it's like some people are
Hmm.
having their best life ever. In the middle of it, it's all about that surrendering process
Yeah.
of allowing God to just move in your life. It's
Right.
like it's the little thing. This didn't happen. It was like once you start doing this, then this door
Hmm.
open. You start doing this, and this door opening, and you just be like, I should have been done did this.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and the main thing was, forgiving and stepping out on faith. I
Yeah.
grew up with so much fear. I knew that I had potentials. I can do a lot of things. I have a lot of talents, but it was the anxiety that I had and the fear that I had that was holding me back. And it was like as soon as I surrendered, a veil was just lifted off of me. And I was like, you know what? I'm no longer gonna let anything stop me from doing what I want to do. And once I did that, like I said, it was like clockwork. Every day I was having ideas to where my daughter was like, wait, slow
Yeah.
down.
I
Slow down.
remember getting a text from you, girl, like this. But let me tell you this. I'm gonna show you said something very important, because remember what you told me you wanted to do, and I was like, well, what are you really good at and stuff. And you remember you were talking to me about some accounting and stuff,
Look,
and I'm like, I am not hearing nothing. No,
look,
that's
you
not it.
crushed me that day, but it was so good because when I told you what I wanted, I was like, I'm gonna do bookkeeping. You looked at me like,
Really,
really?
bookkeeping. Okay.
Bookkeeping. What you like about good book? Don't. And then your words was, don't do it because you know how to do it. Do
Yes.
something that you can see yourself doing for a long time. What if
Yes.
it's a bookkeeping and you be like, this is boring. I don't want to do it. So
Yes.
those were things that I had to think about to
Yes.
to where I'm at. You
Yes.
know.
And a lot
So
of people are living that comfortable life. They are frustrated, but it's comfortable because that is a talent. And see,
mhm,
we confuse our gifts and our talents. Our talents are those natural things that we can, we've learned along the way. We're kind of good at it. Maybe some stuff we got from mom and dad, but your gift comes from God. And when you
yeah.
step into that, all the miraculous happens. I'm for real. And I'm watching you, and I just look and I'm like, go girl, go girl.
I don't think the same. It's just amazing. Bishop Omar said one time, he said you have to change your inside before you change your habit. And I
Yes,
really feel like that one was for me. Like I have that written on so much stuff. Like even when I'm doing homework, I'll write it down. It
yes,
was so
yes,
much to me because I knew. If I want to be this type of person, this great person, I have to change what's going on the inside of me.
Yes.
And that
Yes.
was, I don't even claim depression. I don't claim none of those things no more.
Yes.
You can tell yourself you depressed so many times and you react on it. And I was
Yes.
like, no, I'm not gonna claim none of that anymore. I'm gonna get my life together.
Yeah, because your words have power, and people don't realize that. They speak these
Mhm.
negative things, and they think that's the truth. No, that's not the truth. That's just what it
Right,
looks like right now, because your word, your life is coming into alignment with your word. But if you
right,
start changing your words, your life will come into alignment with that, and it's really that simple. And for you to, you are just a poster child for the journey, a journey to freedom, really
mhm,
allowing the situations to make you better and not bitter. And so I say to every woman, young woman, old, young, or in between, if you're struggling, if you are finding yourself on this journey and feel like you're taking one step forward and two steps back, you've been involved in domestic violence, you feel like, your relationship with your parents and stuff is rocky, and the world is against you and God doesn't love you, this is a woman that you need to reach out to, because she is a true example of redemption, forgiveness, and freedom and purpose. She's a victorious lady. And so I encourage you to check out all of her social media outlets. And let me share those real quick, so that you guys can get in contact with her. And let me share the right one. That's the one I want you guys to get in contact with her. And just realize that we feel sometimes like we're alone, like the things that we're going through, nobody's been through them before, that nobody will understand, or they'll judge you. And I do apologize for those of us, especially as believers, that do that, because that is not the kingdom war legacy way. That's not our way.
right.
But there are people who are concerned, people who understand. And when you're ready to change, when you acknowledge that, okay, I deserve better, like the moment that Miss Wilson had, she got to that moment where she's like, you know what, I'm better than this.
Hmm.
And then it was a journey, because when she got to the point where she was better than this, she ended up rapping and had a positive outlook. But like she said, nothing positive was still coming out of her mouth. So then she had another transformation, like, you know what, I'm better than this. And that led her to OGU. And she was like, you know what, this is it. No, it led her to K War Legacy. And she was like, this is it.
Yeah.
Because you'll get to that place. But it's
Mhm.
a journey. And don't beat yourself up because you don't get there overnight. You will arrive at the place that you are supposed to be right when you're supposed to be there, if you surrender and trust God. So I thank you so much, Miss Wilson, Miss Victress Lady,
Thank
for sharing the
you.
saucy policy with the hair products and all of that. I'm telling you, I sit
Yes.
back and I watch your growth, and I'm so honored to say,
Thank you.
thank you for allowing our paths to cross. Because that's truly what ministry is. People,
Yes.
aside from pulpits and all of that, revivals and all of that, there's a lane for everybody.
Yeah.
And when you find the ministry is within you, and it's how you live and breathe and have your being. And I can't celebrate you enough. So thank you so much for
Thank
sharing. Now,
you.
before you go, I do want you to speak into the life of a woman, because I've said it, but it's not nothing like hearing it from somebody who's actually lived it. Speak into the life of a young woman, mostly our young women who feel trapped, like they gotta stay in this situation because they don't have anywhere else to go, or their family has disowned them and all of that. Just speak a word. It doesn't have to in your own way. Just speak
Mhm.
into the life of that young woman.
Well, I just really feel like, you don't have to be lonely. Being lonely is by choice. There are people out here that will listen. There are people out here that do not feel like they have too much on their plate to deal with someone else. Also, you have to forgive. I had to learn that forgiveness is not only for that person, but it's also for you,
Yes.
because it's a step towards healing. And you have to heal yourself to be able to even say you forgive.
Yes.
Our mouth can say that we forgive, but inside can say something different.
Yes.
So you will truly be walking in your purpose of life once you start to heal, and being able to talk to people, be open, and like you say, be teachable. Because if you pray to God for him to send you someone to help you, he's going to send someone that's going to be honest with you, and you have to be teachable. You have to be able to listen, take it in, and put in the work.
Yes.
So
Yes. Awesome. Thank you so much for being my real grown woman guest today. Your journey to freedom, allowing it to make you better and not bitter, is an inspiration to everyone. So, for those who are tuning in, maybe watching the replay, be sure this is one that I'm really asking you to share, because this is happening more often than we think with our young ladies, our teen girls, and young women. And if you can't do anything else for them, be a source of encouragement by sharing and commenting. And so, Miss Wilson, thank you so much
thank
for
you.
being here. Thank you all for tuning in. This has been another great conversation. Until the next one, stay bold, stay beautiful, and stay blessed.